Welcome to Cats and Rats Podcast, covering your Florida Panthers.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the newest episode of the Cats and Rats Podcast, episode number 50. I'm your host, Kirby Lupo, joined alongside my co-host, as always, Nick Levine and Cody Stevens. How's it going, gentlemen?
Going pretty well.
I mean,
Very well, actually.
3-0.
Yeah, we got a real special guest here today. Yeah. So without further ado, I have interviewed him in the past one time before, and it was awesome. Glad to have him back here. Former Florida Panthers head coach, the 1996 Florida Panthers, who took them on that Cinderella run all the way to the Stanley Cup Final. Sportsnet personality as well, former NHL GM, Doug MacLean. How's it going, Coach?
Great, guys. Great. Enjoying the playoffs, and obviously, I'm probably not enjoying them as much as you guys are, but I'm enjoying them. You
enjoyed them last year at some of those watch parties I was talking.
You know what? It's funny. I was thinking today. I mean, if they get to the finals, which they're going to get to, I mean, I don't know how many teams have gone to the finals 3 years in a row. I mean, it's an amazing feat when you. I'll tell you what. When you consider what the players go through in a Stanley Cup run, to do it 3 years in a row is an amazing feat. It really is.
I might be wrong on this, but I believe they said we're only the second team since the Islanders.
It was Tampa the 3 years prior.
We're able to complete it here. Tampa and then the Islanders.
Like the Bossy Islanders. So.
Yeah.
What company there?
Yeah, exactly. Amazing. No, but it's been fun. Look, I really enjoyed the Leaf series. You know what? I really thought the Leafs this year would have given them a good run. I thought the Leafs blue line was better. I mean, they've got the skill up front, but when the goaltender, when Stolarz went out, it seemed to put a real damper in them. But I had picked the Panthers to win the series, but I thought the Leafs would. I mean, look, it went 7 games, but the devastating part is you go 7 games, but you get hammered in the 2 most important games, 5-1, 6-1, or whatever it was. So look, Panthers, I gotta tell you, boys, and I watch it pretty close, but I watched the trade deadline this year, and I said this I do Kiprios' show every Friday on Sportsnet.
That's Nick's favorite guy.
That's my favorite guy. He was the only one smart enough to pick us to go back to the Cup for the beginning.
Oh yeah. Oh no, he was the only one in all the Sportsnet group. Of course, he sent me that to make sure I saw it. But anyway, I watched the trade deadline, and I said this on Kipper's show the other day that Zito out general managed every team at the deadline. For him to pick up the 2 guys he got in Jones, who's really not been very good the last 2 or 3 years, but you know how good he is. And you pick up Jones and you pick up Marchand at the deadline, and the other teams did very little. Yeah. And, I thought those were, Jones. I was a little nervous all year about the Panthers blue line without Montour. Ekblad was out a lot, with the suspension and whatever. They just didn't seem as good on the back end. And then all of a sudden you get Jones, and they were real good against the Leafs. They were punishing against them. The Mikola, is it? I mean, he's a horse. He's a horse on the back end. Ekblad always gets it going at playoff time. So I thought Zito and he's got. And I said this on the radio the other day. Look, Zito has got Dudley with him. He's got Les Jackson with him, and he's got Fenton with him. 2 former GMs, and Les Jackson, who was really responsible for building the Dallas Stars. So Zito is not afraid to bring in qualified guys to work with him, and I think it's really made a difference with their organization. I really do.
I just want to jump in quick here, Doug. As a coach, GM, would you have looked at Seth Jones? I feel that would have been your type of guy, maybe.
Well, you know what? I think, people were nervous because he hadn't been very good, but he wasn't very good because he was playing with a brutal team in a brutal situation. He was 4 years there. I just think he's a prototypical type of defenseman for a playoff run. He's big, strong guy. Nobody's ever doubted his talent, and nobody's ever doubted his grit. He was lost a little bit with a team that was rebuilding, and for him to get a chance to go to the Panthers, and I've listened to him talk about it, it just went to a whole nother level for him. Just being around that group of veteran guys there.
Mainly that game 7 versus Toronto. I mean, he was flying in that second.
Yeah, he was unbelievable in the whole series. He was. So, it looks good on them. And I'll tell you what I was saying. Like how do Calgary, and it's really bizarre because the GM of Toronto traded Bennett to the Panthers. He traded Kachchuk to the Panthers. And he let Gaudreau walk for nothing to Columbus. So I'm thinking, it's funny how you trade those guys and they couldn't figure Bennett out when he was there. You know that? They couldn't figure him out. But I don't know if you guys remember, you're probably too young to remember, but at Bennett's draft, okay, he might have been 3rd overall in that draft. Okay. He was a great player in Kingston Major Jr. And it was a big joke at the combine that Bennett could only do one pull-up. And I'm thinking, and then I watched him in Calgary. He was sort of a little bit lost because he was relying on talent. Then he goes to the Panthers, and I mean, he's become a dominant physical presence. And he's 6'1", 193. It's not like he's not like 6'4", 220, but he plays like it.
Same size as me, Nick.
Yeah, it's amazing when you think about it.
Well, it's also they had him playing on the wing in Calgary, I remember, and then Daryl Sutter came in towards the end.
Right,
he actually started to play a lot better. I believe it was with Trevor. Might have been Trevor Lewis at that time. Like, he started to find his groove. Yeah. Got shipped off at the deadline, and then playing with Huberdeau just.
But Nick, we're not going to help the Leafs out by taking Marner on in free agency.
No, we're not.
We're not doing that.
But going into the series right now, and my first question is like, you mentioned Bennett, and through the first 2 rounds, the second line of the Panthers, namely, Bennett, Kachuk, Verhaeghe, they really hadn't had a really great first 2 rounds.
No.
Like, it was the third line was unbelievable versus Tampa.
Big time.
And then it was more the third line, and then the fourth line came alive versus Toronto. The first line's kind of been, first and third have been consistent. Yeah. But now the second line has been dominant this series. Yeah. I mean, Carolina can't take them.
I'll tell you what, when you bring in Marchand and you put him with Lundell and whatever his name is, you guys know Houston Aaron or whatever, and the addition of Marchand gives him a whole different element on that line, and you know what he is at playoff time. So, I know Brad a little bit because he's from Halifax, and I watched him in hockey school since he was 13 years of age here in PEI. And this kid, he was a late round pick in the Quebec League. He was a 3rd round pick maybe in the NHL. And this guy is a Hall of Famer. He's a Hall of Famer. I mean, that's what he's become, so that addition really solidified or changed that third line. And like you guys said, the fourth line is a real solid line for them, and they come up big in a big game for them. The Leafs were lost, and it's the pressure. I mean, I get a kick out of Maurice. Oh, they're really good. The pressure's too much, and then Kachuk jumps in, and I'm saying to Nick, they're busting your balls, boys. They're not serious. They don't give a shit. They're busting your balls, So it was fun to listen to them. I thought they were giving the Leafs shots.
He used to coach in Toronto. He was in the market like you were in the marketplace with Sportsnet. So
if the Leafs were lost, I don't know what you call the Hurricanes right now.
I actually wanted to talk about that, but before we do, wanted to talk about that third line a bit. 2 years ago when we made the Cup Final. That Reinhart was on that third line with Lundell and Losterinen. Unbelievable. Last year was kind of a combination between Erod and Tarasenko. I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on having veteran players with those 2 young Finns and how it's kind of develop their game.
First of all, it's kind of funny because they get the kid from Calgary in a trade, Right. That was the what's his name? The kid. It actually was a real good centerman there.
Trocheck. That was Carolina.
Trocheck,
it was Carolina, actually. Funny enough.
That's right. So it was Carolina they made the deal with, and then he comes in. Lundell was was he a second round pick maybe or something?
First round
pick. So I mean, they're good. You knew they were good players, but the way it's meshed with Reinhart and then the way it's meshed with Marchand is really given Maurice a whole nother weapon to play against the other team. I mean, they can play against anybody, and that's what makes them an effective line. And so they're deep right now. I mean, they're. Here's what I said after the game 2 of Toronto. Goalie Bob, I've never seen him as bad as he was the first 2 games of that series. And I said on Toronto radio, I said, if goalie Bob doesn't find his game, Toronto's going to win this series. And then all of a sudden, goalie Bob was phenomenal the rest of the series. I mean, he out-goaltended Toronto by a margin in the last 5 games. So that was a big issue.
I feel like Joseph Woll, I'm in Canada, Doug. They were really carving him up a little bit at times. I'm like, he's not the problem in this series.
No.
And I thought Bob was really bad game 1. Nick, you and I have debated on the game 2, but we're always confident that Bob would find his game. But I know this is a important player to this run for us here. Always is an important player for the Panthers. I want your take on it here, Doug, because the fans want to hear your take here. Matthew Tkachuk, what do you feel like coming off that injury in 4 Nations? Now, I know Elliot Freeman reported might have happened in that fight there. Did he have surgery? Did he not? Now he's back. Really wasn't into form in the first, second round. 70% of his points through the first 2 rounds were on the power play. But now that second line is really driving with Matthew Tkachuk, 5v5. What's your take here on Tkachuk as you've seen this series unfold?
You know what? I love the kid. He gets it. He gets what it takes. Like you saw last night, the game's at a hand. And what's he do? He goes after Aho because of the dirty hit. And he knew it was a time. It was 6-1 or whatever the score was, and he knew he could waste a penalty by sending a message to the Hurricanes. So I coached against his dad. I knew his dad well. I don't know the kids, but anybody in the NHL that wouldn't absolutely love to have either of those 2 guys on your team, him and his brother. I mean, I think they get it. They're characters. They're fierce competitors, and they're talented. And they're tough as nails. What more can you ask for? So I love them as players. I really do.
Yeah. I have a question here, and this is more of a coaching question because you've coached deep into the postseason before, and you've coached like the early Columbus teams, which kind of struggled out the gate as an expansion team. But the way Rod Brind'Amour is looking right now is because, and here's what I say at this, because when coaches are in the spot, they kind of do a couple things. They try and change the goalie to spark the team. That failed. Now, I think in the last press conference, he tried to call out his star players, not by name, but he tried.
Yeah.
After that, what more buttons can you really push here?
Well, it's really frustrating for Roddy because they were a really good team this year. They were a hard-working, fierce forechecking type team. But here's my opinion on it. I've watched them for 5 years now. How do they think they're going to win with Freddie Anderson and the kid in goal? Come on, you guys know how important Bobrovsky's been. You guys, how valuable Tampa Bay's goaltending's been. Stolarz was one of the reasons Toronto were, at the top of the division this year. He was that good. How do you think you have a chance to win the Stanley Cup with that goaltending? Second-tier goaltending. To me, so Roddy, he's played the goaltender thing. He's calling out his stars. I mean, I'd call him out too. Orlov was -4 and bailed out on a couple of bad plays. And he's supposed to be one of their top defensemen. So I think Rod Brind'Amour is a really good coach. I think he's one of the best in the league. But I deep down don't like the makeup of their team. I've never considered them really a contender.
Yeah.
I haven't.
That's actually what I wanted to talk about. I said previously, we do a recap every game. I'm like, I don't think this is a tactical issue or a coaching issue. I think it's an issue It's personnel. It's an off-season issue. It's like I said yesterday, they essentially have 3 third lines, and their guys, Aho, Svechnikov, Stankov, and he's a good player. He's not anywhere near a caliber of a Verhaeghe or a Bennett or a Reinhart, and those are 3, 4, 5 guys.
Yeah. So look, I don't think they're there, and I know they had a good regular season. I know they played well in the first round, but I just don't see them as a match for the Panthers at all. I don't. And now when they face Edmonton in the next round, which it probably is going to be, it's going to be real interesting in that series, because Edmonton will not be intimidated by the Panthers. They won't be. Yeah. With the Canes and the Perrys and the group they have there, they won't be intimidated. So that's going to be I think it'll be last year the Panthers jumped ahead 3-0, and then it became a great series. Panthers dominated. So it'll be Panthers have the goaltending. That's what they've got. And goalie Bob, and talk to Dale. Dale told me that, I said, how did you end up with Bobrovsky? And he told me that Vinny Viola told him he wanted him to sign Panarin and Bobrovsky, both of them. And he got Bobrovsky and didn't get Panarin. But it was Viola that said, I want you to go and get those guys. Pretty interesting that the owner, you don't hear that very often,
Yeah.
But I just want to mention one more thing. You guys mentioned when we talked to Chuck, Reinhart, Bennett, but the guy that is a horse is Barkov.
Oh, my Lord.
He is so damn good. He's so talented. He goes head to head. He's got a demeanor that is a calm demeanor with the group. I think he's a real, real important guy in their team. I really do.
I think he's a future Hall of Famer to me.
Nick Kyprios called out his partner there, Bourne, on the set last week when it was like, he was kind of like, Barkov, Kachuk had a quiet series, and then Nick said, no. You don't understand Barkov's game. It's death by 1,000 cuts. Yeah. And he's doing everything possible out there for this team. And that's where the Leafs and even their media, people that cover them, they keep missing the boat. They keep missing the point. It's Barkov and guys like that and the leader of the team that wears the C.
You can tell that he has unbelievable respect in the dressing room from the coaches, but from every player because of the way he carries himself. I mean, he was a 3rd overall pick. And I remember Dale telling me, I need him to play harder. I need him to play harder, to become a harder guy. And that's what he's matured into. He's matured into a guy that is not fazed by pressure, loves the tough matchups, shuts down the other team's best players. He's a horse. He's a horse.
I call it the Jaromir Jagr effect, Coach, when he came in, and then Paul Maurice and Matthew Tkachuk took it to that next level for Alexander Barkov. So it was 2 of those that are in there.
Yeah, big time. I agree.
I want to talk about, because you kind of mentioned the ownership. Vinny Viola loves himself some Barkov, of course.
Let's not talk Sifu, by the way.
No.
Let's not talk yet.
Oh, boy.
We won't go into that.
You stay off Twitter, Dougie.
Bill Zito, what is your thoughts on that, man? What he's done to this franchise, how he's reshaped it. I think Dale Talent, and Dale, I think he gets a little bit of a bad rap, obviously, with the expansion draft, with the Vegas situation. But he did a lot to help build Florida. But Zito just took it to a whole other stratosphere. What is your thoughts on that, man?
Yeah, look, I think Dale did a solid job, and I think Zito came in, and the timing was really well. But look, when you Kachuk forced the hand, getting Kachuk was a major lucky break, and he wanted to go to Florida, he wanted out of Calgary. His agent set it up that this is what's going to happen, and it put Calgary in a tough bind. So Bill, whether he was, I don't know how involved he was, but he got him. That's all that matters. He got him. And I think that he's made some great moves. Getting Forsling on waivers, seriously, boys. I mean, when do you see a guy get picked up on waivers as a defenseman and he becomes a major part of your team?
Never.
McCullough this year. I mean, I remember watching him at the Rangers. I said, this guy's a 6'4". How do they let him go? I mean, I'm thinking. So I think Bill, and I think he's got a good veteran leadership group with him, in management. But Bill, in my opinion, deserves a lot of credit. He deserves a lot of credit. And he was an assistant in Columbus for 6-8 years with Kekalainen. And before that, I dealt with Bill when he was an agent. I mean, I'm trying to think of the kid he had in Detroit. It was one of his top clients. He played in Finland, and he played with the Devils, and he won Stanley Cups in Detroit. Anyway, a young defenseman. So I tried to sign him with Bill there, but I dealt with Bill a lot as an agent. So he had good experience going into the job, and he's done a really good job. Really good job.
Yeah.
All I could think of there, Cody, was Oli Mata, but I don't think that matches up.
Mata never won cups.
No, it's you'd know the name. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm missing it here. It's I'm getting old.
If it comes back to you here, Doug.
But I mean, going back to the point with the goaltending here, and I never understood like the switching the goalies in a series, because if you want to win a Stanley Cup per se, you're sticking with one guy. I mean, let's say back in '96, let's say you guys hit a rough patch with Beaser. You guys were down 3-0 versus Colorado. You didn't move away. You didn't think for a second to switch Beaser.
Yeah,
because that's your horse. That's your guy.
Yeah, it's you get in trouble. And I remember saying in Toronto before the series, I was a little worried about Stolarz because he's never done it. He's never had to carry the ball, but he had an amazing season. He was really good. It was a great pickup by Tree Living. But I was a little nervous with him going in, but he looked real solid in both the games till he got hurt. Wall, way too much to ask for Wall to go in with the fierce way the Panthers drive the net and go to the paint and cause havoc. It's a lot to ask for a young, relatively inexperienced goaltender. So I agree. I mean, like Beaser, I think back to that last game we played against Colorado in Miami when they won the Stanley Cup. If I'm not mistaken, Beaser made 75 saves in that game. I mean, and Patty Wall on the other end made like 68.
He kept matching him. I think Beaser was the better guy that night, but Wall kept matching him.
I know it was so, but anyway, it was amazing. And I look at Beaser. I ran into him in Chicago a couple of years ago at a game, at a youth hockey game. I mean, he's 5'7". Think about that, 5'7". But technically, he was so damn good, and he was a tough guy. And Fitzy, it was a combination. I don't know if the two of them really spoke much during the season. There wasn't a lot of love lost there. And every time I wouldn't play Beaser, I'd get on the bus and he'd be pissed off and he wouldn't talk to me, because I wasn't starting him, And Fitzy, we'd play in Miami, and I probably told you this the last time I was on the podcast, but Fitzy would go out when he was starting. He'd go out for the warm-up. We'd come in, and I'd walk into the dressing room. He would take all his equipment off, all his underwear off, change his underwear, and get redressed to go back out for the game. And I used to say to my guys, I said, like, maybe if Fitzy would just leave his equipment on, he wouldn't let that bad first goal in every time. But it was like a race for him to get changed to go back out. But it was bizarre.
Goalies are weird creatures.
Most bizarre thing I've ever seen. But anyway, he was a good kid. I haven't, he's one guy I've run into a ton of players, those guys over the years, but he's the one guy I've never run into, So, but they, that team, and it'll be a lot like this team, the Panther team, when what became of those Panther players. To a man, every one of them were successful in life. Like, they had good jobs, they had good careers, they went on to do really good things, because they were such a character group of guys,
I just wanted to jump in there, Coach. I know you shared some stories with me off air last time I had you on my podcast. I appreciate that. But any stories of a favorite player that you coached with the Panthers, something that you can tell us that maybe you've shared before or maybe you haven't shared too often you'd like to share with our audience? I know you talked about Brian Scrudlin last time with me when he called you up, and you were really impressed by his captain leadership. And it's similar to this team. It's like when Paul Maurice came here, he got a phone call from Carter Verhaeghe and said, this is a special group. You had that same phone call from Brian Scrudlin. So anything to share about that 96 team or certain player on that roster?
Well, you know what? We went into Montreal one night. I may have told you this story. We went into Montreal to play one night. We lost 7-1, and I was so pissed off. It was, So I said to them after the game, I walked in the room, and Montreal's where the guys get a chance to go out and have a few beer and relax, because bars are open till 3 a.m. and it's a good town. So I go into the dressing room after the game. I said, we lost 7. I said, okay, be on the bus at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. We're going to Verdun to practice. We'll get dressed here, put your gear on, carry your skates on the bus, and we'll go to Verdun to practice, at 10 o'clock or something. And they were sour. They were sour because they all wanted to go out. So I'm sitting on the bus. The guys are coming on. They're grumpy. They're hungover. They went out. And they got their skates and their sticks over their shoulders, and they're coming on the bus. And nobody's saying a word, but they're pissed off. And I'm sour on the bus. And on comes Scrudlin, the last guy to get on the bus. And he's got his helmet on, and he's got a beer bottle taped to the top of his helmet. And I'm sitting there, and I break up. So he's got the beer bottle taped onto the top of his thing, an empty beer bottle, and the bus just cracks up. And I'm trying to be the prick, and I'm laughing my ass off too because it was. But he set the tone. We go to Verdun, and we had a great practice because Screwy set the tone. He said, "Screw the coach. I'm going to set the tone so we have a good practice." So that was, that was always a fun thing dealing with Screwy. He was a great guy. But another great story was Robbie Niedermeyer was dating the famous model, Nikki Taylor. Remember that?
Yeah, I remember her. Yeah.
So Robbie's I'm coming through. I was living in Coral Springs, and I was coming down. I don't know what it was, not Sawgrass, but the way down to Pompano on the, down through Power Line in there. And I get to the toll booth, and the guy said, the toll booth guy said, "Hey, coach, one of your players just went through here." And I knew Nikki Taylor lived in Coral Springs, and Robbie lived at the beach. So I get in, and I say, we go out on the ice, and I skate out. I said, were you in Coral Springs last night? "What do you mean, coach?" I said, "Well, I know you were in Coral Springs." And he had no clue how I knew he was in Coral Springs, but it was a toll guy. So anyway, I get the Sports Illustrated, and it's got a picture of Nikki Taylor sitting in this big hot tub, with nothing on or a big bathtub, the Sports Illustrated swimsuit.
Yeah, the body issue swimsuit. Yeah.
Well, she's in there in the hot tub with the suds over her. So I called Robbie, and he was a shy kid. I called him into my office, and I said, "You're struggling a little bit lately." And I said, "Yeah." And I threw the picture of the hot tub of Nikki out, and I said to him, "Have you ever been in that hot tub?" he looks at me like I'm crazy. Like he was like 21. I said, "Have you ever been in a hot tub?" He said, "Yeah, maybe." I said, "Get that autographed and bring it back to me tomorrow." So but Robbie was one of my all-time favorite guys. I loved that kid. And he had 27 goals for us, and he went up against Lindros, and I mean, he battled hard, but he was just such a unbelievably great kid. And I thought I had him in Columbus. I thought I had a deal done, Mike Sillinger for Niedermeyer with Calgary, and it fell through. And I was so disappointed because Scott was coming up as a free agent. And I thought if I get Robbie, because I love Robbie,
you would get Scott.
I might get Scott. And Berkey got Niedermeyer, and then he got Scott, and they won the cup in Anaheim.
Maybe it could have been you.
Well, we weren't as good as Anaheim, but
yeah,
still,
it helps having Chris Pronger.
I still think that's the greatest pairing ever: Chris Pronger, Scott Niedermeyer. I mean,
seriously, unbelievable. I mean, you see them. So look, those guys were a great group of guys, and you run into them, and I still run into them once in a while. They were just super guys. But it's funny how it's been a long time, but how you still stay a part of that group, and I love seeing the Rats, and it's a bizarre when I go to places in Canada, I still have people talking to me about the 96 Panthers and the Rats, and it's crazy, to think about it.
Cody and Nick, I just want to add on the Rob Niedermayer front. Our co-host Carly, her sister, favorite player all time, Rob Niedermayer. So she's going to love that story. And Doug, I also think a lot of those players from that '96 team would fit in culturally with this team, Cody.
Oh, big
it's
time.
It's just a matter of the skill factor, how deep this roster is.
I actually wanted to ask about that. So obviously this crazy 2-3 year run started in 2023. We barely made the playoffs.
Yeah.
A lot of talks of comparisons to that 96 team. Was kind of getting your thoughts. What were the comparisons there? Did you see any similarities there?
Yeah, you know what? I wasn't really thinking much about it. I was thinking more about the fact that they were on the bubble to make the playoffs, and they squeak in, and then they have the big run. You know, and there was talk about Mo getting fired. I mean, people were talking about him. He had got fired in Winnipeg. Well, he says he quit, but I know he got fired. I mean, look, but he's had a tough go because he's been with some bad teams, and all of a sudden he gets here. It's a great chemistry. I think he made it an even better chemistry. He's handled himself really different from how he handled himself with other teams. I remember guys used to tell me, he was always sort of good with the media outside, and he was, and the players used to say, is that the same guy that's in talking to us between periods that's so, friendly and good with the media? Because he was hard on the players. I just think he came in, he was relaxed when he got the job there, and I think he was in a great frame of mind when he got the job, and it's worked out really well, and he's done a really good job. Yeah,
and I still think the craziest stat to this is when he does coach a game next year for the Panthers, he'll be the first coach to ever make it past 3 years.
Amazing. I know. And crazy.
It's like, because me and Nick here, we were born like right after Bure got traded, so we got quite a bit of the dark years.
Yeah. I mean, we got Jacques Martin, Pete DeBoer, Kevin Dineen, George Gallant.
Peter Horacek.
We thought Peter Horacek. We really thought we kind of screwed up that Gallant thing because there was that whole thing with the taxi and North
Carolina. You know where Doug's from.
George's a buddy of mine. But you know what? It was funny how it went there for a long time. It really, like when I got fired, it was like 2.5 years in. So I get fired, and I'm watching the next game, and the Panthers won 9-7 in that game after I got fired. And they lost 17 games in a row after that, and finished last in the playoffs. Finished last in the regular season, and Brian had traded the first-round pick for Victor Kozlov, and because of that, they missed out on getting LeCavier because they had lost the pick because of the trade with Kozlov with San Jose. San Jose got the pick. They trade to Tampa, and they got it. But 17 games in a row they lost after that. And then what's really bizarre is, I'll tell you how bad the coaching's been. Not how bad the coaching's been, how bad the teams have been. Paul Maurice last year broke my playoff record for most wins. How bad is that? How bad is that? Paul Maurice passed me just last season in their run for most playoff wins. I thought, oh my God, I can't believe it's taken 25 years to
It's like it's you guys 1 and 2, and I think it's like, well, who's a Q that like third with like what 6?
Might have been Brunette.
It was
Brunette.
It was bizarre how long, and I'm thinking like, good God! And it was 2 years ago. Mo tied me, and then last year he went ahead. So
yeah,
you look at the Montreal record books and the Edmonton record books. We do our post game show after, and our fans, we try to tell them the history, but it's hard to kind of like teach the history when there's not a lot.
We ain't got no history.
Yeah, but you know what? It's I'll tell you what. It was amazing, even when I was there, how the fans were unbelievable fans. And when I go back to a game there, I went a couple of years ago to when Boston were playing, and it's still a lot of the same fans. It's amazing how that. The core group of even that late 90s group have stuck with the team. A lot of them really have, which is really pretty cool to see.
I got
you have someone in your section.
I got a couple people in my section. This guy has the old Leaping Panther jersey, White Panther jersey. He has pins from every single season that they give. His jersey's just littered, and he's telling me stories about Miami Arena, how much of a pain in the ass it was to drive there from Coral Springs and all that. But
I mean, one of the rings though, Nick.
He's got one of the original rings. He was showing me pictures of it, but it's like he was telling me it's like 10, 15 years ago, like you couldn't give away a free ticket.
Oh, I know.
Right?
I know.
And now it's just like the show in town. It's like 3 straight years. It's kind of becoming like
buy one, get one tickets.
No, I know. It really is amazing how and it's great. And they were great fans in the 90s and at Miami Arena. Miami Arena was a 14,000 seat building, but it was wild. It was wild. And I'll tell you how big we became, okay? I get a call in the playoffs from 2 guys wanting tickets. Bobby Orr and Pat Riley. Those are the 2 guys that phoned me looking for tickets because they couldn't buy them because we were sold out. And I said, I think we finally have made it. But what was funny, when I got the job with the Panthers, I was like a total nobody. And Pat Riley had just gotten the Heat job. And there was rumblings in the Panther office. How do the Heat, the ticket salespeople and that, and there was, how could the Heat get Riley and we get this loser MacLean coming to us? So it was pretty funny. But anyway,
don't undersell yourself.
Hey, you were the greatest coach in franchise history for 25 years.
Yeah,
I know.
Hey, you guys don't know this about Doug. You guys don't know this about Doug, but we have a new audience now, Doug, and our numbers are growing. Appreciate everyone you subscribing. Doug, there's a story that you shared with me before, and you guys can find the memes and GIFs out there on Twitter. It's the F around and find out. You're on that, and there's a guy that created a lot of those for you. I think in Medicine Hat or somewhere in Alberta.
Oh, the guy that does the GIFs things, eh? How bad are they? I know.
Because we always use it with Kachchuk, F around and find out. Well, if you guys search, you'll find Doug MacLean on one of them. When you're coaching with Detroit, I believe.
I know.
It's superimposed you in there.
It's unbelievable how he puts that Detroit picture out. I've never met the guy, but I've actually had some conversations, on Twitter with him. Brian Leach is his name. He's a really good guy. So it's kind of funny to see it. Yeah. But anyway.
But before we continue, let's hear a word from our sponsor, Caneswear.
Panthers fever is here. Are you geared up? Caneswear in Davie is the place for all your Florida Panthers needs. They have the latest gear for our favorite NHL team. Jerseys, polos, t-shirts, hoodies, hats, and more. Caneswear has you covered. Stop by their store in Davie or at pantherswear.com. Again, that's pantherswear, WEAR.com for all your Panthers gear.
And a word from other sponsor, Jeremy Beckham with Bexels FLA. Hey, Panther fans in South Florida, need real estate help? Check out Jeremy Beckham with Next Home Treasure Coast. It's a boutique service with a personal touch. Jeremy and his team put humans over houses, working hard for you whether you're buying or selling. Ready to move? Hit up BexelsFLA.com or call 772-475-5371 now. You'll be glad you did.
Well, thank you, Coach. Do we got everything else for him today before we kind of wrap here?
I mean, just talking with him and going over these stories and stuff, and then the dark years, those dark years kind of makes me appreciate these last 3 years more than anything.
Yeah,
because it's funny. It's like I remember some Toronto fans are like, "You guys don't know what it's like to be in the dark age." I'm like, "What?"
5 years.
I'm like, "What?"
Exactly.
It's like, because here's the thing. Because when I first became a fan, we had 4 young guys. We had Stephen Weiss, Nathan Horton, David Booth, Jay Bouwmeester. And I remember, and I was like 6. I didn't understand none at the time. And Bouwmeester gets traded to Calgary, and he was my favorite player, so I was really upset.
He was leaving for free.
And then Booth gets knocked out by Mike Richards, really effectively, kind of altering his career.
Big time.
Horton never wants out, and then a couple years later, he's racing a cup with Boston.
Yeah.
And the Panther, I will always have the utmost respect for Stephen Weiss.
Yeah.
Because he stuck through with us. Through the tough
and
times.
he was a good player, a really good player.
That 11-12 team, when they went to Game 7 versus New Jersey, my first experience
at that game. That was Marcel Gotch scored with 3.5 minutes left. And that's still, to this day, the loudest I've ever heard the arena. He tied that game up with 3.5 minutes left. And that was Marty Brodeur, 40 years old. Everybody taunting Marty. Wasn't a good.
And Cody and I feel for Weiser the most because they never gave him talent, Doug.
Oh, I know.
Heart and soul guy, you know.
He really was. I got to know him pretty well. And I remember I used to meet his mother at the airport when I was going back and forth from Florida. She'd be on her way down to watch him play, and I was on my way to Toronto, so it was funny. So anyway,
but Weiss, it broke my heart, the way ended up for him in Detroit. Kind of just the age catches up with him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I guess the last question for you is: does this series end in 4, or do you think Carolina finds any way to push this to 5?
I've got them losing in 4. I really do. And for the Panthers, it's really important because whether, not that the series have been that tough, but the way the Panthers play, as physical as they play, a few extra days off before they play Dallas or Edmonton, it could be really important, just because people have no idea when you go through a playoff series and get to the final, how beat up every player is. How many injuries they really have and how sore and so getting that extra couple of days rest is important. I think they end it. I really do.
I did want to ask you this because this would be our 3rd straight Cup final appearance as of this recording. How important do you think the rest was for Bobrovsky during 4 Nations? Ekblad, I know he got suspended. Usually he's missed that time to injury. How important do you think those key guys getting rest, no matter how they got it, throughout times of the year contributes to you?
And I if I was in the league as a coach or manager, I would be so against the 4 Nations. As a fan, I loved it. I loved being able to watch that type of hockey. But you're always scared to death you're going to look at the Kachchuks. I mean, it hurt Ottawa because the kid was banged up, the Kachchuk there. And it also, you guys lost him for the whole year, the rest of the season, basically. And luckily, he came back for the playoffs. There was some question. So I think it was good for Bobrovsky not to play and get a rest, but Bobrovsky's been so damn good since he's been in Columbus. He's a horse right now. He really is. And I wasn't a big fan early on in his career, and now I've become a real fan of his. He's zoned in. He says the right things about his team. He says the right things in the dressing room. In the clips I see, I think he's a leader. I really do.
And I think that is why the Panthers are so comfortable with trading Spencer Knight, because they really do believe in Bobrovsky and what he's got left.
100%.
There's so few horses in the league nowadays, and I always am
we take it for granted sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Take it really for granted there. Before we let you go here, Doug, I know I was trying to get a hold of you last time, and you were overseas in Portugal. Anything on the horizon for you? Anything plans ahead here, hockey-wise, non-hockey-wise? You want to share?
No, you know what? I was talking to a team about an advisor job, but I'm really, I wrote a book a couple of years ago, Draft Day, and I'm actually writing a new book. I just did a new deal with Simon & Schuster on it's going to be a day in the life of an NHL general manager. So I'm interviewing a bunch of GMs, and so it's going to be all about the GM's job from when you go into the office in the morning and you finish a game night and, free agency, draft, the whole thing, So I'm going to trade deadline. So that's sort of what I'm working on now. But I've got I'm busy. I've got a lot of real estate things going on here in Canada. We're building an apartment building in town. I've got a bunch of subdivisions. So I'm sort of into the real estate. So I'm really pretty content, And I love to watch hockey. I do Kiprios' show every Friday, which is a pain in the ass, like a royal pain in the ass. So, and you know what the worst thing about it is? JD phoned me last week, and John Davidson wanted to know what or he phoned Rimmer. He didn't phone me, but I talked to JD a lot. He phones Rimmer. What is Mac getting paid for? I may do some radio things. What's Mac getting paid? Is he getting $1,000 a week? Is he get 5,000? What's he get? And Rimmer said he does it for nothing, for Nick as a favor.
Like I do for Nick for a favorite. No.
So anyway, it's a fun. I have a ball with them, and I really like the Bourne and Kipper are just great guys. So I actually have fun doing it.
Sammy,
but it is a pain in the ass.
Sammy whines a little too much for my liking, but I'll just.
I get a kick out of it. Well, he's such a Leaf lover.
Oh man!
But when does that book drop, Doug? Because our fans, they love draft day stuff in July 1st.
Yeah, it won't. I've got to have it done by December 15th, and then it won't come out till the following fall. Okay. So I have to have the manuscript in by mid-December, and then it won't come out till a year from the fall of next year is when it would come out for Christmas.
Following Christmas,
yeah.
Hey, sounds like I gotta buy a book now.
Yeah, there you go, Cody.
Don't buy one. Just say I get 50 free ones. So send me a note and I'll send you one.
Oh.
Well, if you do that, Coach, we'll advertise it on here.
Okay.
Well, I'll advertise it either way because just kind of because here's the thing, because the NHL, is very, very hush hush and very kept in, the way they operate, especially free agency and drafts.
Yeah.
So it's like always very juicy stuff to like kind of see what's inside because the NBA, NFL, you see the NFL draft, you see the draft rooms and all that. Yeah. The NHL, you just see a freaking table with like 13 guys on it. They're just sitting there.
I know, it's unreal. I agree. Anyway,
it's just like it's such an enigma.
Yeah.
Because the way the contracts get done like this, and I just would love to like hear more like about like what happens during those free agency stuff like that.
Yeah, no, it's exciting stuff. So Kirby, you're in Edmonton or where are you?
I'm in Calgary, Coach.
Oh, Calgary. Oh,
I can't do the Edmonton thing again. All my family and relatives are in the Fort Saskatchewan, Alberta area, Edmonton area. I can't do this again, Coach. It was a lot.
The way Dallas is playing.
Has your family talked to you in the last year, Kirby, since last year?
They're hiding out on Vancouver Island right now. Nice area, Doug. Probably very familiar with it. And then they'll be back in Alberta for the Cup and try to get.
And it's going to be McDavid and the Oilers against the Panthers. So get ready.
Yeah.
We do all the post-game stuff, Doug. It's so much.
Oh, that's good. That's fun. Well, that'd be fun.
Kirby, at least the games will finally be early enough for you.
Yeah, there we go. It'll still be a sunset out here, so or close to. So
maybe you can head a little bit up north, catch a game.
Maybe.
If you want to sell your kidney, that is.
But the Florida media last time, like, Kirby, we want to interview you. I'm like, I'm 3 hours south. I'm not going. And the ticket prices, Doug. Oh, astronomical prices.
Oh, I know.
I'd rather stay home.
Yeah. Crazy. Well, if you guys are getting me into their Panthers, and I'll be there, buddy. Nick, I need some budget.
You could probably come down here for a lot cheaper.
Yeah. Don't go, Kirby. Last 2 times you went, we got shut out, buddy. So I mean,
I have a good record in Edmonton. So you guys should.
In Edmonton, Calgary.
Panthers people listening to this.
Calgary. I don't think we've won in Calgary.
Yeah, they're always here like when there's a blizzard or whatever.
Like Bennett's best game in his career is still against us.
Yeah.
He had 4 goals.
That's great.
But Coach, I want to thank you for your time. We might make this an annual tradition every playoff year.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime, boys. Look me up, and good luck to the podcast, and good luck to the Panthers. And thanks for having me on. And anytime.
It's an honor to talk to Panthers royalty as such as yourself.
Okay, bud.
Hey,
appreciate that.
It's the truth. But I mean, wrapping up here, Game 4. As of this recording on Sunday, Game 4, Monday night, and I'm feeling confident for Game 4. Really, I think Carolina is done. The body language isn't great.
Yeah.
Brymore, like coaches have this 1,000-yard stare from when stuff like where they don't know what to do, and he's had that about 4 to 5 different times.
Yeah, he's fed up.
He probably got that look watching film, Cody. Let's be honest here.
Yeah, he's fed up.
I mean,
the worst part of coaching is when you play a bad game, you have to rewatch it on video, and it really hurts.
Yeah, you just
coach to coach. I hear you.
It's like my dad used to coach football. He used to have a squeeze ball whenever he watched film of a bad game. And I just see him just squeeze it, and that would just always be it. But I think I don't know about you, Nick, Kirby. I think it's done.
I think it's I don't think Carolina has the talent or the mental. They're done.
This is the most lopsided conference finals I can remember. like when we swept them 2 years ago, it wasn't like this 1-goal games. It could have went either way.
Could have went. Every game could have went either way. This one, not close.
Not even close.
You could argue Carolina kind of some similar things, not being able to get to the inside again. Yeah. I think it's more magnified this time than it was last time. But
because the Panthers are better. Like,
I mean, that's the one thing. It's like, love that team 2 years ago,
but the back end
got to do it again with Mark Stahl and Mahura and Colin White. That's a big ass.
But Kirby, how are we feeling for Game 4?
Yeah, feeling good here, Cody. Feeling good.
But anyway, appreciate having Doug on.
Thank you, Coach.
Okay, guys, all the best and good luck. And I'll see you. I'll probably watch you on TV at the Stanley Cup parade. So
there you go. Nick.
Okay, guys.
If there's a parade, I might be boots on ground for that one. But anyway, appreciate everyone listening. Yeah. Check you out next time. And as always, let's go Cats.
What's up, Cats and Rats fans? If you enjoyed that video, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button before you head out. If you're listening to us on Apple and Spotify, make sure you leave us a 5-star review. And just like always, let's go Cats.